Hello, welcome to the Flute 360 podcast, where we incorporate a panoramic view of flute-related topics. I am your host, Heidi K. Begay, and this is episode 150, an interview with Jennifer Gunn. Before we dive into Jennifer Gunn's interview, I have some exciting offers to share with you. Never could I imagine that Flute 360 would get to work with such fantastic companies, but here we are. I am thrilled to announce 2 exciting discounts from my flute friends. Flute Specialists is giving you a 20% discount off of sheet music from now until March 1st, 2021. Also, Flutistry Boston is giving you a 20% discount off of the book Survival of the Flutist by Marion Gadigian and Patty Adams from now until March 31st, 2021. Use your Flute 360 code today to set up your flute studio with the essentials. With your purchase, you are financially supporting the Flute 360 podcast. Thank you for your backup, and all the links are provided below in the show notes. And now, let's turn our attention to Jennifer's interview. We hope you enjoy the conversation. Hi, Jen.
Hi. I don't know how to use this stuff.
No, you're doing great. It sounds wonderful, and it sounds like you're in the same room with me.
It does, except like you sound like you're above my head somewhere, like floating.
I'll be your guardian angel for today.
That sounds perfect.
Although I'm kind of clumsy, so I don't know if you really want me to be that, but, I'm offering.
That's okay. I'm a little clumsy myself.
Oh, it's so good to hear your voice. And
it's so nice to hear your voice, too. I was really looking forward to this call.
Oh, good. Me too. I get such a kick out of making new flute friends and getting to pick my guest's brain. It's just a wonderful journey for me to take it all in. And yeah, I love every minute of it.
Yeah, I listened to the last 3 piccolo podcasts, and I've just loved them. It's just like you get to sit in and be sort of a fly on the wall of this great conversation of the 3 that you've had on already. Did you have more than 3 piccolo people?
No, you are correct. Okay. It's been Erica, Amy, and Nicola.
And Nicola. And I when you start talking to them, I'm like, oh, I know them. And it's so fun to hear their voice and the questions you have for them. And, Nicola, I saw him just over a year ago. The orchestra was in Florence, and he took me all around town, and we had beautiful dinner. And so it feels like a lifetime ago that I actually saw him, but it feels like yesterday all at the same time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So how was dinner in Florence with Nicola?
It was so fun. He came to the concert. We played, he's just retired from Maggio Musicale in Florence, and he was, still actively in the orchestra January. What year is it? January. Wait, was it 2 years ago? Wait, how long have we been doing this now?
Right.
No, I think it was January 2020, right?
Oh, before the pandemic?
Exactly right before. The orchestra was on tour in Europe, and we had made arrangements to see each other because I had never been to Florence, and we were right in his hometown, and he came to the concert. So when I entered the concert hall, he was there waiting for me, which was really exciting. When you're on tours are fun and they're very exciting, but you kind of miss seeing the familiar faces that aren't your colleagues in the orchestra.
Sure.
So when I walked into that backstage area, there he was with a big smile on his face, and he, I forget what we were playing, but something that, Oh, it's Prokofiev third. It's a really touchy piccolo part. So I was like, oh, great. And of course, he knew the part well. But no, he was wonderful. And then we went out to dinner after. And then the next day, I had a day off, which was amazing that it was a day off in that kind of a city.
Yeah.
And, we just walked everywhere. And he's so knowledgeable. I mean, he's from there, and that city in particular, and just took me all around the place. We must have logged, I don't know how many, 20,000 steps that day.
Oh,
it was great.
Fun. Oh, my goodness. Speaking of being a fly on the wall, that's when I would want to be a fly. Like zooming over yours and Nicola's head in Florence, Italy.
I made him take me to the, I'm totally spacing on, there's a really famous, is it Ferragamo shoes? I'm blanking, but I made him take me to that shoe museum.
Oh, okay.
And that was a first for him. So we did this museum, which was hilarious because, I don't think he really cares as much about shoes as I do.
Oh, he sounds so sweet and so warm-hearted to do that. He just sounds like he is, from what I've, heard in our 1 hour talk, but he's so warm. And
yeah, he's a wonderful human being. And so every piccolo player that I've met so far, I just love. So it's just his festival that he does, that International Piccolo Festival in Grotto.
Okay.
He had me there a few years ago, and it was such an amazing experience. Just everyone was so warm and giving, and everyone was there to have a good time and really learn. And it was a wonderful environment.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I think he's having it this summer.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think this summer might be summer number 7 or 8. So it's
wow.
It's a reoccurring thing, gaining steam. So that's good.
Yeah, definitely. Oh my goodness. Thank you for going down memory lane with us.
Isn't that what this hour's for?
Oh yeah. We're just gonna sit back and actually talk about that stuff for a whole hour.
Yeah.
Oh shoot. So totally off topic. Did the ADT guy come?
He did. He came at noon, on the dot. And I was like, this is perfect. The dogs, I knew I've got 2 out of 3 dogs with me here in Chicago right now. And I knew they'd freak out. So I thought, gosh, if we're on the phone and then the ADT guy comes, then the dog's going to freak out, and then I'm going to have to calm them down. It'll be just a circus more than usual. And, but no, it was great. So it was very quick. I guess they're upgrading. I don't know. I didn't really understand. I just sort of nodded along when he's like, we need to swap this part out and upgrade, blah, 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 blah. But
yeah.
Been and gone.
Yeah. When tech guys or, those Verizon guys or anybody is talking to me about technological aspects, I'm just smiling and nodding. Mm-hmm,
yeah.
Sure. Yep.
It's like Charlie Brown's teacher a little bit.
And what's worse is my other half, my husband, is an audio and video engineer. And so he talks.
Smile and nod a lot.
I do. He's taught me how to turn on a microphone and the audio interface for the podcast, and that's my extent of my knowledge in that realm.
You are way ahead of me. Way ahead.
And he tries to teach me other things. I'm like, Eric, really? I'm going to forget this stuff probably in 30 minutes. So do you even want to bother?
Yeah, I totally hear you. When my husband tries to explain some stuff to me, and he can see me, whatever it is, he can see me start to glass over a little. And then he usually just says, do you really want to know?
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're right, I don't.
Oh, shoot. Your husband is a musician.
He is. He is the clarinet professor at University of Texas in Austin.
Oh, okay. There's the Austin connection. Okay.
Exactly. That's why I have a bit of a Texas connection now. I was trying to think of all these things that you might ask me and the answers to them ahead of time. I can't even keep it straight now. I think this was year number 4 for him.
Okay.
So For us, that's a relatively new turn in his career. But before that, he was in the Cincinnati Symphony for a long time. And before that, we were in the same orchestra in Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Oh, wow.
So that was a long time ago.
So since he's teaching at the University of Austin, do you and Marion Gadigian get to collaborate from time to time?
Yeah, I've given a couple of classes for her students, but I think the more fun part is, when she and her husband and Jonathan and I get to just go out and gab and have a good time and leave the flutes behind.
Yeah.
But no, I've worked with her students a couple of times, and it's just been she has a really strong studio. Actually, I have to say, I was super impressed. I knew nothing about any school in Texas, actually, but I think the whole program is really strong.
Yeah.
Very high level. Yeah.
Yeah, no, she's amazing. And there's a lot of schools in Texas that are at a very high caliber. Like UNT and Rice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing.
No, which school brought you to Texas?
Oh my gosh, my Texas journey is so long. I won't bore everyone. I won't bore everyone. But this is very interesting how we're talking about Chicago, Illinois, and Austin, Texas. I'm originally from Chicago.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And actually, I left in 2003 when I was a senior in high school. I left in 2003 to go off and do my studies in college and things like that. And I think you started being the piccoloist with the CSO in 2005.
That's right.
Yeah. So, we missed each other.
Yeah.
But I went off and did my studies in Arizona, Louisiana. And then when I was leaving my master's program in 2009 out of Louisiana, somebody said, "Hey, do you want my flute studio of 50 flutes?"
Oh, God.
I know. That was my reaction, too. It's in Fort Worth, Texas. And so 2009, it led me to Texas, and the rest is history. I've been teaching for a long time, went back to get my DMA also in Texas. And then this is my second home. And so, so we have this Chicago, Texas thing going on here. It's really cool.
Yeah. And my father-in-law lives in Fort Worth.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. He taught at TCU, and his wife, I think she's just retired too. I can't keep it straight, but they both taught in the religious studies department at TCU.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very neat.
Small world.
Yeah, for sure. So I can't wait to pick your brain about your experiences with the CSO and your wonderful collaboration with the Mid-Atlantic Flute Fair this weekend. But before we do, can you share with the listeners a little bit about yourself and your musical background?
Oh, yeah. I guess we jumped right into just chatting.
No, I love it.
Well, my name's Jennifer Gunn. I'm from Selinsgrove, Pennsylvania. That's central PA. I did my undergrad. Well, I wanted to make sure I named all my flute teachers on here. So in high school, I studied flute with Mary Hannigan. She was the second flutist in the Harrisburg Symphony and taught at Susquehanna and Bucknell universities. And so she was my first actual flute playing teacher. Before that, it was band directors and stuff like that weren't flute specialists. She set me on a path of a very steady diet of Trevor Y and, pulling my corners down and all that. And then I went to Duquesne University in Pittsburgh. My undergrad started with Rhian Kenny. She's the piccolo player with the Pittsburgh Symphony. And then halfway through freshman year, I switched to Robert Langevin. And he was the principal flute player at the time in the Pittsburgh Symphony. And I ended up spending my entire undergrad plus 1 year of studies, sort of unintentional gap year between undergrad and grad school with a failed grad school attempts. And Robert said, well, just stay and take lessons and rep class. So I did. And then I did the whole grad school, audition circuit again. And I ended up doing a year of grad school at University of Akron with George Pope.
Mm.
And at the time, he had Mary Kay, it's Robinson now. She was married at the time and it was Ferguson, but Mary Kay Robinson was teaching piccolo lessons. And pretty early on in the degree, I had won my first small job. And I went to George and said, I think I'm not going to finish the degree. I'm going to move back to Pittsburgh and freelance and stuff. And he said, well, if you don't need all those extra credits, why don't you drop those classes and take piccolo lessons? Yeah. And I said, okay. Because I'm the kind of person who would take a lesson every day if I could. I just love playing the flute and learning flute and piccolo and stuff and playing all the time. And I didn't really care too much about like music history.
Yeah.
That's bad to say, but I'm not a very good academic person.
Okay.
So I said, yeah, okay. So I dropped enough credits so I could take piccolo lessons. So I was playing in Wheeling, West Virginia. So, it was my first job. It's kind of maybe 40 minutes outside of Pittsburgh. So a lot of people from Cleveland and Pittsburgh would freelance in that kind of area. And it was kind of like a once a month kind of job, 1 week a month orchestra. So a second flute there. And then 2 years later, I won my first full-time job, and that was principal flute in the Fort Wayne Philharmonic in Fort Wayne, Indiana, where I didn't meet him in Fort Wayne. I met him in school, but was reacquainted with this guy that I would eventually marry. He was principal clarinet at the time. And after 3 years in Fort Wayne, I moved to Louisville, Kentucky. I was assistant principal and second flute for a year. And then the next year I got the CSO job, and the rest is history. So then I guess, yeah. So then I finally won a piccolo job, and the rest is history.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful.
It feels like a long kind of path, but I guess it happened relatively quickly.
Yeah. Thank you for being so candid and open about how you said, school really wasn't your thing.
Oh, yeah.
I
feel like a fraud teaching at a university.
Oh, no. No, you're a fantastic teacher. And so you should not feel that way at all. But no, that's really interesting and great that you mentioned that, just because you found your path, and it might have been maybe in an unconventional way. I don't know if that's even true to say, but you just realized, I love playing the flute. I love learning and taking lessons and piccolo lessons and all of that, right? And then you just pursued your passion.
Yeah. I knew from the first semester of undergrad that I wanted to play in an orchestra.
Okay.
I didn't have I'm from pretty much the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania. And although, there are cultural things, I don't come from an orchestral family or anything. My parents are not musicians. There's really no professional musicians anywhere in the family. My aunt was a church organist, but that wasn't her profession. Yeah. So I don't think I really heard an orchestra play until I was probably a junior in high school.
Okay.
So it's pretty late, I would say, compared to the kids I meet now.
Yeah.
That are like, oh, I started playing an orchestra when I was 10.
Yeah.
I didn't know, So when I got to Duquesne, I don't know how many students are there now, but when I was in school there were only 10 flute majors, of any kind, education, performance, music therapy, whatever, only 10 flute players. So everybody got a lot of exposure to the different ensembles. And, if you scored high enough in the audition pool, then you got placed in the orchestra, which I was lucky enough to play in from freshman year. And I remember playing the Moldau. I don't even remember which part, but I remember we were playing the Moldau, and I thought, I have to do this. This is what I want to do. And I was just dead set on it. And I guess it was fate, I guess, for me, both of the teachers at the time were Pittsburgh Symphony members, and they had a very similar path to their life. Orchestra was the way to go, and it was sort of like you put on those blinders and you just put your head down and you do it.
Yeah.
And that's what I needed. So I think I was lucky to fall in that path. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's just more than one way to obtain that goal. Like, you could have continued your master's or, whatever program if you wanted to. But again, I know I'm being redundant, but it's more or less me just showcasing to students there's more than one way to achieve your goal. And a lot of times school is the answer. You know what I mean? But
yeah.
I think even now in today's climate, right, with COVID and how the educational system is being mixed up and, flipped inside out and upside down, I think we're going to start seeing more air quote unconventional ways of obtaining studies and education towards a goal than maybe those traditional paths.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I mean, I will say out loud, I don't think I'd recommend to anybody to do it the way I did. I don't think anybody should really quit school.
Yeah.
And I think people should be much more open-minded. I don't know. I just had this mindset. I'm going to do this. And I gave myself so many roadblocks along the way. Like, if I don't get into school now, then I'm quitting the flute.
Yeah.
Very dramatic stuff. And then something would always, that when I was finishing undergrad and I set my sights on 3 schools for grad school, and I didn't get into any of them because they were the hardest ones to get into, of course. And I remember Robert saying, "Oh yeah, I think you have a shot at that." So I did, but I didn't give myself a safety school. I did, it was not very smart.
Okay.
Looking back on it, but I just decided, well, if I don't get in, then I have to quit and I have to do something, like
yeah,
a normal people job or something, but, and then something came up, like I got a little scholarship, and Robert said, well, just take lessons. You have the money to do that. And okay. Yeah. Okay. And then, one more year, and then another, round of schools. And if I don't get into these, then I'm, whatever. And then this, GA position opened up at Akron, and, for a flute player to make money in school, that's kind of hard even now. And I thought, well, okay, it's still close to Pittsburgh. I can keep all my connections of freelancing and stuff like that. So just little things along the way kept me going, like a little carrot in front of my nose. But I think looking back, I would definitely tell myself, finish your degree, you idiot.
Well, it served you well because you are the fabulous piccoloist in the CSO. So
it worked out. But, I still think maybe I should have a master's. I feel like I don't know.
No, I think your title alone holds a lot of weight. So I think you're good.
I'm pretty lucky. I will say that.
Yeah.
Hello. This is Jim Keefe, and I make Keefe piccolos along with my good friend and business partner, Jan Kinmonth. Over the years, Jan and I have been fortunate to work with many great piccolo players and have developed a very good understanding of the challenges piccolo players face. One of the great insights we learned was from Lori Sokoloff, former principal piccolo of the Baltimore Symphony. Lori told us, the challenge in playing the piccolo is not getting out the high notes. The challenge is in making it sound like a musical instrument. So our job as makers is to offer piccolos that help players make this beautiful but challenging little instrument sound like it belongs in the orchestra. Our job is to offer piccolos that have a rich and dark tone quality, that blend beautifully, and have a stable, predictable scale. To achieve this, every aspect of our work on the piccolo comes into play, from our selection and treatment of wood, to the design of our scale and head joints, and even to the selection of our pads. No detail is overlooked. We also offer many options to make life a bit easier, such as the C-sharp trill, the vented C key, the Brasa F-sharp, as well as 4 head joint styles with a range of material combinations. By the way, our head joints are generally available immediately, and are a great way to breathe new life into an older piccolo. To learn more about Keith piccolos, check our website, send a message, or give us a call.
So speaking of the CSO, what's the dynamic like amongst you and your flute colleagues, or I don't know, anything you want to talk about with these 15 plus years playing with the CSO?
Oh gosh, I was thinking the other day, when I heard Erica's podcast interview, I think she said, this is like her third year maybe.
Yeah.
And I like, it brought back all these memories. Like, I think by year number 3, I had finally sort of come to grips that this was my job, and I was going to stay, and it was mine now. And it took a while to settle in. I never dreamed that I would be in an orchestra like this. I had a goal when I got to Fort Wayne. I was so happy because my life goal came true. I had a full-time orchestra job that I did not have to work at the mall and all that kind of stuff. And do people do that anymore?
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? Like, I wanted to have an orchestra job that would sustain me, pay the rent, have a cat, a car payment, and Fort Wayne was that. And I thought, okay,
yeah,
I've reached, I've reached my goal. And then everything else was just like, oh, okay, well, I auditioned in Louisville because Jonathan won a job in the Cincinnati Symphony and I wanted to be closer to him. So I was like, well, I'll just go there and I'll get that job. It's not that easy to do that. But my 20, I don't know how old I was, mid-20-year-old brain was like, okay, I'll just go. And if it's meant to be, then it's meant to be. I'll go there. And then when the CSO opened, if you're from Chicago, there have been many auditions for the CSO job and this particular spot, Wally's chair, and I auditioned a few times. And I never really thought, I'll try, but
yeah,
who gets that when they've never held a piccolo job before?
Yeah.
And it's just, it was a dream come true, really, just like winning a job at this level of orchestra. And then starting, it was like, wow, it's quite a grind. So, I think for the first 3 years, it was really, really, really hard. Like I kind of want to walk away hard.
Wow.
And then after year 3, something just sort of, something just changed inside my brain. Maybe it was that I had much more repertoire under my belt. I don't know what it was, but it was sort of like, okay, now I can handle it.
Yeah.
I put on my big girl pants and I can do this. But no, it's been a wonderful journey and very, I just can't even believe it. I mean, my husband likes to remind me, I'm the old lady in the section now.
Okay.
At 15 years in, I have the most seniority in my section. When I started, I was a baby, but, when I started in 2005, Mathieu Dufour was the principal flute. Richard Graff was the assistant. Louise Dixon was second flute. You know all these names from growing up here. And Louise and Richard had been in the orchestra a long time together. And Mathieu and I are close in age. So I sort of thought, well, we'll grow old together in the orchestra like Louise and Richard. Richard would play these little, I don't know, like these little pieces from like Rubank's solo book or something.
Yeah.
Like there's the one called like Andalaus or something like that.
Yes.
And he would start it and Louise would just pick up her flute. They wouldn't talk about it. They wouldn't speak when they were doing this. He'd pick up his flute and blah, 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 whatever it goes. She'd pick up her flute and finish the phrase.
Oh, wow.
And it just like, it got me every time. And she was sort of doing it and she'd be like, Richard, and I sort of thought, I can't wait to like grow old and have these little flute games.
Oh.
And then Mathieu left.
Yeah.
And that was pretty, I mean, how can you not want to go back to Europe if you're from Europe, and Berlin Philharmonic. I mean,
Yeah.
amazing. But that was really hard. I'd never been in an orchestra before, in any of the orchestras that I had been in, where a member of my section left before me.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't know how that felt. And you know, this, every job, you get really close to your colleagues, and it's just, it's a different environment when they're not there. So that was a change, a shift, and weird, you know, and then having to think, I'm going to be now on the committee that chooses his replacement. That was even weirder. But when he left, we had some time to have different people in. And I just, that particular year, it was a lot to go through different people, and, you know, their playing styles is, you know, it's different to work week to week when you don't know someone's playing very well. But meeting all these flutists, it was just amazing. One wonderful experience. Still, you know, keep in touch with everybody, and it was just really great. And then after that, Louise retired. So we ended up hiring Stefan Holtzkolten, who was a wonderful colleague, wonderful player, beautiful, and great guy. And then Louise decided to retire, and that was hard for me too, because I still am. I just love Louise Dixon. Amazing colleague, wonderful woman, just a rock in the section. You know, I mean, that second flute position, you just have to be the most solid human being you can, you know. And the principal flutes are usually a little crazy, and the piccolo player, like my husband likes to say, piccolo players are always crazy. Except me, of course.
Of course, yeah. Naturally.
Yeah. And then we had auditions for that, and we hired Emma Gerstein, who's a wonderful colleague. She fits, she's filling Louise's shoes beautifully. And then Richard retired, which is, you know, that was a full change from my first year to now. It's a completely different section. We haven't filled his job yet, but I'm sure when COVID's over, we'll have another audition and see who comes in and fills out the family. It's been a wonderful ride, one I'm happy to continue.
Yeah.
Hopefully soon.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said the word family. You took the words right out of my mouth. It just sounds like this evolving family. And I'm sure you're still in touch with, you know, Dufour and all of the other colleagues that you mentioned. But now it gets to expand into these new colleagues. And how special is that?
Yeah, it's really special. And I've known Stefan a long time, actually, since 2004, when you left Chicago. Yeah. I've known him for a long time. And, you know, we met auditioning at the Met.
Okay.
And then, you know, after he won second flute and I got the piccolo job, when CSO would go to New York, you know, I'd see him occasionally for coffee, or I remember a recital he and Stephanie did early on. And, you know, just, you know, you make these connections even in an audition, and you make lifelong friends. You know, it's kind of amazing. And then when we had the opening, I remember asking him, we were on tour, and I asked him, would you be interested in auditioning? And he said no at the time, because he was principal flute at the Met now. He and Natalie were married, and, you know, they sort of started a new life. And then I think we had him out to sub, and I think he liked it a lot more than he let on at the time. So then when we invited him, he said yes. So he came and auditioned, and it all worked out.
Wow. How cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's a big old spider web.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, that's wonderful. So speaking more about your beloved CSO, I'm going to totally butcher this name. I'm going to just put this right up front. Albrecht, is that correct?
I think that's pretty close.
Okay.
I know I had to ask I had to ask John and Dora, how do you say your last name? I think Albrecht, I think. Albrecht?
Albrecht?
Yeah, we'll just call them John and Dora.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So Dora and John endowed the piccolo chair in December 2020.
Yes, they did.
That is amazing.
It's really an honor. I'm not exactly sure what the process is, but
Okay.
I'm to be honest, I know it's a very generous gift to the orchestra, as you can imagine, but
Okay.
I don't know what that number is, and
Okay.
I don't really want to know.
Yeah.
But from what I understand, a donor can choose whatever chair they want.
Okay.
And it's usually principal chairs that are endowed, titled chairs and stuff like that. And in the CSO, the piccolo is not a principal. It's not a titled chair.
Yeah.
Or anything, but Dora and John chose my chair.
Okay.
Specifically. So I was so honored because, that's just not, normally people just choose the principal stuff.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no, because I'm not in the orchestral world, I thought this would be a really neat opportunity for me and the listeners to learn from you, what that process looks like and what does it mean to have a chair endowed. That is something that has not come up through 360. And so I thought, oh, what a neat opportunity to pick your brain about that.
Yeah, as far as I know, I don't know very much.
Okay.
But, it's a very generous gift given to the orchestra. And I'm sure there's a certain price tag on naming a chair rather than just giving. Okay. But I don't know what that number is, but extraordinarily generous. And from what I understand, now that my husband's in the academia world, from what I gather, you might be able to help me out here. In the academic world, when something's endowed, like a position, maybe that might come with like monetary benefits to the particular teacher or professor or whatever. That's not what happens for the orchestra.
Okay.
This doesn't mean I get special treatment or anything or, a little bonus. That's not what this is.
Okay.
The gift goes to the orchestra.
Okay.
And the way for them to be honored is putting their name on that chair.
Okay. Well,
that's what I think.
Yeah.
Somebody can call in and tell me if I'm wrong. But John and Dora are wonderful people.
Yeah.
They're patrons that I've gotten to know on tours. Usually if an orchestra goes on a tour, there might be a small group of patrons that follows the tour.
Okay.
Like if we go to Europe, they'll come to all the major cities with us and, attend concerts and receptions and maybe have other events that they get, like a little tour of the facility or private dinner with, I don't know who, but
Yeah.
maybe with the conductor. I don't know. But John and Dora have been on a lot of tours that I've been on in the last 15 years. So when I got the call that the chair was being endowed, I was told, it was them. So
Wow.
I had a face that, two faces that I knew well. And I was just over the moon that they, not only would give this gift to the CSO, but that they would choose to give it through the chair that I'm sitting in, which I feel like I should just pinch myself every day for sitting there.
Yeah. How generous of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And thank you for shedding some light onto how the patrons sometimes can travel with the orchestra. I did not know that.
Yeah, it's really fun. And, we've gone all over the world and they've, I don't know, I would have to look in a tour book. There might be like 20 or so patrons that come along sometimes. And
Okay.
they usually stay at, I don't know if they're always in the same hotel or,
Okay.
well, that doesn't matter, but
Yeah.
but we'll have like receptions before or after the concerts and dinners, and sometime I forget where we were, and there was even like a boat trip, where you could sign up for these different events to do with the patrons, and
Okay.
I didn't go on the boat trip. No, I wasn't picked.
Do you get motion sickness?
Oh no, it was
Oh,
just
okay.
a small sign up and my name wasn't
Oh, okay.
drawn for that one. So that was a very highly sought after patron event, and only certain people got picked.
Fancy.
I know, you know.
Wow. Oh, no, that's really cool. I didn't know that side of the orchestra.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we, you know, if anybody's not in the States listening to your podcast, you know, in the States we don't have government funding for the arts.
Yeah.
So we really need and heavily rely on the generosity of people in the community to keep us going, you know. From my experience, the CSO has a wonderful, you know, very strong patron community and wonderful people. You know, I have a lot of downtime in the chair during concerts, terrifying downtime, but
yeah.
but you know, I'm sure you remember coming to Symphony Center. The hall is quite shallow.
Yeah.
So shallow and steep. So from my seat, I can see faces pretty clearly. So I look out to the audience and I recognize people. I might not know everyone's name, but I know which night they come. You know,
wow.
like, oh, there's that person and there's that person, and you know. So and then you start getting to know people, you know, through different. We have like, I think it might be a different name now, but when I started, it was a women's group. I think they let men in now, so I think it's called like the League now. But
okay.
And once a year they would throw like a Valentine's lunch for the musicians, and you know, you get to know people by sitting at their tables and just having, you know, just chatting about, you know, they're very interested in what we do, and we are interested in why they come to the CSO so regularly, and what their passion about classical music is. And
that relationship building is so important on so many different levels, right? Yeah. That's amazing. Cool. Well, let's shift gears a little bit towards the Mid-Atlantic Flute Fair, if you don't mind. And I just loved everything you did, Jen. I mean, between your recital and the masterclass that you gave, you just astounded me from top to bottom. So,
oh well, likewise. I watched your presentation was so thought out, so beautifully, carefully worded, easily digestible to the non-podcaster, the non-entrepreneur in the crowd, in the audience. I was blown away.
Oh, you're so sweet.
I thought it was a wonderful weekend. You know, I didn't know what to expect with the virtual thing and how it was going to go, but I think they did a fantastic job.
Oh my gosh, yes. It was so easy to navigate.
Yeah, that little app thing was great. I was getting like, okay, you've got a master class to watch now, and I had your thing bookmarked, and Jillian's bookmarked, and Christy Beard's bookmarked, and then of course the headliner events in the evening, and Elizabeth's class the next day, and then my stuff. It was reminding me to show up for my stuff too.
Oh, shoot. Even though you don't get to be in community with these other flutists, you know, in person, it was nice not to have to run around and get blisters on your heels. You know how like the NFA is, and you shoot yourself in the foot and you wear like the wrong shoe, and you're like, why didn't I wear flats or tennis shoes for the day? So I
didn't even wear shoes all week.
Yeah, there you go.
I know I did. I told one of my students, I was like, I did a flute fair this weekend, and I don't know why, but I wore a dress and high-heeled boots for my master class. No one could see from the waist down on me. I don't know why I did that.
Well, you just wanted to, you know, be all there and packaged together.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I should have just kept my yoga pants on.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, shoot. No, that masterclass was wonderful. And I loved how easy your communication was to digest, your word choices. And I'm so glad you brought that up, because the more I do these different conventions and everything and be a little birdie on the wall and watch other clinicians teach students, of course, I always have something to learn. Like, of course, like when you were speaking of vibrato for the piccolo and these little piccolo nuggets, of course, I'm digesting that information. I'm taking it in because who cannot not learn from Jennifer Gunn? But,
Oh, stop.
but at the same time, I'm noticing the older I'm getting, I'm noticing more the language that the teacher is utilizing because there's an art in that, right? And how effective we can be with the students and particularly like what you're saying versus what you're not saying or how you're delivering it. There's so much power in language that there's a purpose behind how you deliver XYZ. And I don't know, I'm rambling, but I think it's beautiful to like pick up on those little tidbits to say, oh, wow, she was really effective with that concept with X student. Did you notice the language around that? I don't know. It's just been blowing my mind lately because as educators, we have to take something that's so complex sometimes, right? And then narrow it down to like this beautiful one-liner just to really be super clear. And I think that takes time.
After so many years of, I think it might have been Amy who was on your podcast saying that she was reluctant to teach at first, and she's a beautiful player, beautiful person, but I completely understand feeling that way. And then, after you do master classes a few times, it's sort of things become a little bit easier. You sort of can read how a person might digest what you're saying. Like you're saying, like you're pointing out, like not everybody, I might have a concept of how I think about something like sound production or vibrato or whatever, but not everybody will take that information in if I just say it in one way. I have to figure out how to, explain myself in multiple ways for people to really fully digest. I think that's something that you just sort of develop over time, figuring out different ways to say the same thing 50 times.
Yeah. And then there's a lot of creativity there.
Yeah. And it really, I don't know. It's each time I teach, I used to sort of think, oh, I'll just say everything the way Robert said it, but it doesn't really work that way. Even when I would teach alongside of him, he would say things, and then after the class, the student would come up to me and say, I didn't understand. Then I would say, okay, well, we just have to break down what he means.
Yeah.
And we'll try to figure it out, the best way that works for your body and your face and your air support and all that kind of stuff.
No, I love that. So if a teacher is listening to this and they're thinking, oh my gosh, I have, some upcoming master classes. I've never met these students before. We've all been there, right? And so our time
on Sunday.
Yeah. Our time with them is so short, and you get, even you, I just love seeing it when they gave you the moderator said, Jen, you've got 3 minutes. You're like, what? I don't no. Right? And so we have such limited time with these students. What is some advice that you would offer to teachers as we are, helping a student from point A to point B during the master class?
Yeah, I find meeting someone for the first time, like I did on Sunday, hearing them for the first time, I didn't hear their pre-recorded stuff before everyone else did. So it was sort of like sitting there, like, okay, I know there's so many things, you could pull out from the nugget they're playing. And I guess the one thing I would say is try to focus when you only have 20 minutes, if that, 15 minutes or so, try to focus on one thing. And what's, as you're listening to the student play the piece, what is the biggest thing that just keeps coming to your mind about what they might need help with, or the most they could get out of this experience in this short time is, is it maybe the student has a bunch of things that could be fixed, like pitch and vibrato and articulation. I would say just choose one and focus on sort of the most obvious thing that is sort of holding the student back from giving their best performance of XYZ thing, and try to just keep it pretty simple that way. You know, like you said, we don't have much time in a class like that. It's not like we're spending an hour or two one-on-one. And, you know, usually in masterclass situations like that, I know I was like this. I'm sure I hope everyone was like this. When you're a student and you're playing in those master classes, do you remember even being able to concentrate? I couldn't.
No.
You're like, you know, you're on display. You want to play really well because you've got friends in the audience and whatever. And then this person is talking at you. If the mentor person talking to you is babbling away about too many things, I think it's tough to take that in as the student, or it was for me. So yeah, I guess I would just say simple is best.
Yeah. I have a life mantra, and it's kiss it, so keep it simple, smarty. And
that's good.
I have to remind myself that every day, because sometimes I tend to overdo things. And so I have to like ground myself and say, no, Heidi, you need to kiss it, because you can. Oh, shoot. No, but you kissed it in that masterclass, and you totally gave them that one nugget to focus on, and then you dove into it a little bit more in depth. And the other thing I do is, as I'm getting older and I listen to, these performances too in a masterclass, I think if I was in that person's shoe, like if I was the clinician, what would I say? And then see if the clinician and I sync up. And for sure, the first player, he was a fabulous piccoloist on that Vivaldi.
Yeah. High school.
Yeah, high school, right? And I was like, okay, if it was me teaching this student, the thing that I wanted to focus on, and I think you did too, was the vibrato. And the funny thing is, this just shows your caliber to mine. I would have been like giving him vibrato exercises and things like that. And you went right to the tempo. And then you said, look, it fixed your vibrato. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Well, the secret there behind that is I don't know any vibrato exercises.
Okay.
No, I know like one. Yeah. But that was one thing the vibrato issue comes up a lot. And I know I mentioned vibrato a lot in that class, but when I was studying with Robert, there was no like, ha, 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 no exercise like that. Yeah. And he would just say, well, would you sing it like that? Or, it has to fit inside the phrase, like there was no sort of exercise to do it. It was just sort of like, no, vibrato should just decorate the tone. It shouldn't overwhelm the tone. Yeah. So that's it in a nutshell for vibrato.
Yeah.
but very often something like that Vivaldi slow movement that we all know and all love, something like that, when it's so slow, it's hard to not bubble the vibrato, because you're just, you're sort of counting and the vibrato comes in with the counting, and but no, he had a beautiful sound, and just speeding up that tempo it worked very well for him.
Yeah, it was genius. I was like, man, I'm so
not genius.
Yeah.
Not genius.
Oh, no, that was great. And the other aspect of Mid-Atlantic that I was just enthralled with was your performance. And I especially loved how you played Cocopelli and piccolo.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
Thank you. I've loved that piece since I was an undergrad. I love that piece. And when you asked me about the question, why did I pick it? I think like everybody during this pandemic, I've searched like every solo flute piece known to man to practice, and just to get, like everybody's like, well, I have to play by myself now. And when I knew I was going to do this recital for Mid-Atlantic, I thought, gosh, I have to like 30 minutes of solo piccolo.
Yeah.
Yikes. I don't know if I'd want to listen to that myself.
Yeah.
And I love the piccolo, but solo. So, just started looking through my files of stuff, and I just started playing stuff on piccolo, flute stuff. I love playing all music on the piccolo if I can. So anything, Bach, French pieces, whatever, oboe sonatas, And then when I was taking stuff off the shelf, I remembered the Hoover, and I thought, I bet this would sound really cool on wood. Like maybe if I had a wooden flute, I would play it on a wooden flute instead of a metal flute, but I don't. And I thought, well, let's try it on the piccolo and see if it works, and if I can annoy my neighbors enough with these high notes. But I thought I really enjoyed playing it on the piccolo. I thought I thought I could get more colors out of it than I normally can on where it takes me a little bit of work to get them on the flute, I guess.
I see. No, I've heard it before on alto flute also.
Oh, I'm going to do that today.
Yeah.
I'm going to dig out my alto and play it on that.
Yeah. No, it definitely works. And I figured, I didn't want to assume because assumption can be dangerous, but I assumed that piccolo worked well, and you thought, oh, Coco Pelli on piccolo, that would be cool because of the wood aspect. Yeah. And with the Native American flutes being cedar wood or, whatever wood, yeah, it definitely worked.
Yeah, it's such a cool piece. It's just one of those that I could hear it all the time. And I think a little while back, there's a master class Jennifer Gunn did for Chicago Flute Club, and someone played it. And I was like, oh, I forgot about that piece. It sort of took a back seat on my flute shelf for a little bit. And so when I heard a student play it, I was like, I'm going to dig that thing out and see how it sounds on the piccolo.
No, and I want to talk about that second page of all of those high G flats at pianissimo, if my memory serves me right.
I think they are. Yeah.
Oh my! You just you nailed it. You came in totally flawless, and you're like, "Yeah, I'm owning this." I was just like, "What?" When I heard you do it, I was like, "Shut up!" So yeah, are you? Oh my gosh!
Thank you.
Yeah. With everything too, like there's so much, and I'm using this word very loosely. I don't want the listeners or you to take this literally, but there's so much control in your playing.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Is there anything along those lines? Does that resonate with you, or am I totally off target?
Oh, no. It's, okay. I don't know if I think about, the word control, but
yeah,
everything to me, it all boils down to that Trevor White tone book #1.
Okay.
And that's everything. I think with every teacher I've had, everything is about the beauty of the sound.
Okay.
Everything, every exercise, like we tend to say, well, okay, I'm going to work on tone in my tone exercises, but every etude, every scale, every other thing is all for me about the beauty of the sound. So it's incorporated in every physical, if that's the right way to put it, physical exercise, finger exercise, tonguing exercise, everything boils down to that good air support, fast air speed. The way Robert taught me and continues to teach is maybe a little bit different than other teachers. This air column stays pretty much the same. And then you change the size of the opening of the embouchure. And even more so when I gravitated toward piccolo even more, the piccolo is it magnifies everything, good and bad. And the more space you have in the embouchure, the more space you have in the cavity of the face, the dropping the tongue, the raising the tongue, everything affects the sound. The consonants you use, the vowel you have in the back of your throat. So I think about all of that stuff when I practice, my fundamentals. And I think that just directly translates to the playing of the pieces. Yeah,
for sure. No, it was amazing. And
thank you.
Yeah, and I don't know the the newer piece that you had played, Stevenson?
Yeah, Jim Stevenson, he's now local to the Chicago area, but I first met him when he was still playing trumpet full time. But
Huh.
he approached me, oh gosh, I don't even know what year that would be now. It was his sonata and Amanda's sonata, Harbor Sonata, came out relatively close together. Maybe that was 2017, 2018. I don't know. Not that long ago. And he approached me about writing a piccolo sonata because, now, I mean, he's known me for years, but now he and his wife come to the CSO. So he knows me now as a piccolo player. And I said that would be fantastic. So I premiered it a couple years ago at a Chicago Flute Club event. And then when this recital came up, I wanted to play it again. But I was like, well, how am I going to do that? I have no pianist and I'm not supposed to be with the pianist. And so I just thought, I wonder if he would send, I know he has like MIDI versions of it. And, he's got it on YouTube on like a MIDI file, but it, how piccolo and flute sound, it's like on, those mechanical, but the piano actually sounds pretty good. So I said, well, do you think you can take the piccolo part out of that file? Could you send me the piano part? Because maybe we can put it through a speaker.
Yeah.
And so I asked him, because the recital was only 30 minutes, the whole sonata is 20. I didn't want to just play that and one other piece. So I asked him for 2 of the movements. I thought that would be a good way to introduce it to a broader audience. It was supposed to be played by Sarah Jackson last year for the NFA convention, but that got canceled. So I don't know what's happening this year with that yet. So anyway, so I asked him to have the piano MIDI file, and we hooked it up through the Sonos speaker, and it all worked out.
Oh, nice.
It was a little weird, but
No, it was a really neat piece. And there are actually moments, my ear probably will deceive me, and that's okay. And I'm being vulnerable right now. But there were moments in the Stevenson that actually kind of hinted Cocapelli to me. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if there was a certain mode or something, but I got little like Cocapelli like moments in the Stevenson.
That's cool. Well, that first movement is really open, and the low notes he uses, like there's only so much you can do to warm them up. They're a little bit hollow. So I can totally see that. Somebody else wrote in that they heard Poulenc in the first movement, and I could hear that too.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
So since we're speaking of compositions, is there another composition that you want to do a shout out to? A piece that comes up in your studio a lot, or something that you perform quite frequently?
Well, I guess, hands down, my favorite piccolo piece is Ken Benchouf's Spindrift. I just love that piece. I haven't played it in a few years, but I still practice it. I just love it. And his concerto, I premiered at NFA years ago in San Diego, and then just did it, was that a year ago now? 2 years ago now with the CSO. And just an amazing experience. His music for me is, I remember getting the call. Jeff Zook called me to do the NFA premiere of it, and it wasn't written then. And he said, well, they've chosen this composer, Ken Benchouf. And I said, Jeff, I'll play it. I don't care what he writes, I will play it. And it took a while to get the notes. He's a little slow with like his writing. He like fiddles with stuff. So it took a while to get the actual physical notes to me, but I love him. And I just feel like I didn't meet him until that convention personally, in person, I guess. And I just felt like every note, he just knew me. And it was just easy for me to sing through it. So hands down, Ken Benchouf, and I love his Spindrift.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's really neat when you get a composition like that where you feel like your voice can really sing the line beautifully.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, more and more people are starting to write for the piccolo that way. I think Jim's pieces, it's hard, but it fits the instrument really well. It might not have sounded like that in the second movement, but but it does actually lay quite well. I think Ken's music does. Amanda Harburg, that's everybody's sort of devouring her sonata turned concerto right now, and there's a reason why. It fits the instrument.
Yeah.
And you can really sing. So, yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to work so hard.
Yeah, like finding that voice in it. It's not like, not using the piccolo to do gymnastics work.
Yeah.
Not that it's not athletic and not that you don't have to practice notes, but it's not like, Vivaldi.
Yeah. Yeah.
First and third movements. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, what a great composition pick. That's a great piece.
Well, it hasn't been, I don't know if any of my students have ever played it for me, but I love it.
Very cool. So to bring, I guess, this talk full circle, I mean, we started the talk off with you mentioning like your studies as a student, and here you've got, and you worked your way up towards the CSO position. Kind of going back to young Jennifer, I know that this might be an odd question, but I'm curious, like through your journey as being a flutist or as a woman, as a human being, I don't know how deep you want to go, but what is, right?
Careful.
Yeah, right? What advice would you give to young Jenn?
Oh, I've always been extraordinarily hard on myself. Still am. So I think what I would tell her is, be a little bit more patient. Practice your etudes, girl. Come on. Like you really should do that. I don't know. I think, and maybe it's still something I would tell Jenn, mid-40s Jenn, just to be nicer to yourself. I think this business is difficult, and you have to have some sort of, checks and balances along the way. Self-doubt is annoying, but is important. It's a reality, but I think a lot of us can be extra hard on ourselves. So, and I certainly was and still am. So,
yeah. Isn't that so true though? Like, and the reason why I ask this question is because, again, the older I get, and this is not about me, but it's just the stage in the season that I'm in, here being mid-30s, creeping up on 40 soon, is, for example, like something that I'm going through right now, like a turmoil, and I think it's the end of the world, right? And I kind of envision like 50-year-old Heidi talking to 35-year-old Heidi saying, okay, girl, it's not that big of a deal. You need to breathe, and I see myself shifting and like sympathizing for younger Heidi, and then having this like older Heidi come in and kind of like mentor 35-year-old Heidi. And I wonder if people do the same thing, and if people go through that process too, or if I'm just crazy and talking to 3 different Heidis. I don't know, but
you are not crazy at all. I think we all, I hope we all, or maybe it's just the two of us, do that. I think, I loved being in my mid-30s. I thought, I feel like at that point, and maybe this is sort of what you're having happen to you now, like in my mid-30s, I finally felt like I knew sort of what I was doing.
Okay.
Not all, I in my 20s, I mean, I don't think I don't know who you were talking to. I think the imposter syndrome thing came up in one of your interviews.
Oh yeah.
I don't think that had a word, it didn't have a label yet. I was in my 20s, but it was just sort of like, I just would flat out pretend to be somebody else because I didn't believe in myself. So like if for an audition or a concerto or some sort of performance, I would just sort of say, okay, I'm going to be, I'm going to be Robert today, or I'm going to be this person that I perceive to be uber confident whenever I see her, Sally down the street or something. But I never, in my 20s, I never let myself just be me. So I didn't think I was strong enough to do it, And then mid-30s, I don't know, maybe by mid-30s, I'd been in the job for 5 or 6 years, and this job anyway. And, I feel like it's sort of a sink or swim job. So, and it's pretty grueling. So, I think by mid-30s, I was sort of like, oh yeah, I think I can handle this now, sort of, maybe I can. And then like turning the corner later, I mean, I wish I could go back to mid-30s when that sort of sense of that first real surge of confidence came in, like, I can do this,
Yeah.
And now in my 40s, I'm like, oh, yeah. Yeah, this is just what it is. This is life now.
So it goes in spurts.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still very, very insecure. I feel like I don't know how people, I guess right now in my 40s, I sort of realized that everybody is, it's just, I was watching this great documentary about Quincy Jones.
Okay.
Just as an aside, because who's not watching tons of movies right now? But,
right.
And he's in the documentary, he's being interviewed by his daughter, Rashida Jones. So people who might not know who Quincy Jones is, well, look him up because you better know who he is. But his daughter, Rashida, was in Parks and Rec.
Yes.
People like that show. Anyway, so she's interviewing him and documenting this film, and he talks about ego. And what he said was, he finds that ego is just, how did he put it? Just out of control insecurities, really, which I found really interesting. There's a difference between feeling like you're confident, but when you have this ego, don't you find like the people with the biggest ego, if you could really get to know them, they're just full of insecurities about themselves, So I feel like this journey through life, you just sort of get more comfortable with your convictions and your abilities for things. And I don't know, I'm going down a rabbit hole.
No, I love this rabbit hole. No, it's amazing.
Oh,
yeah. No, it's very true. And yeah, I like that perspective from Quincy. That's amazing.
Yeah, because, he's lived a long life of, I'm sure, just his whole entire music career spans every genre you can think of. And it's really, I find it fascinating, but yeah.
Yeah, we can definitely learn from these giants in our industry.
Yeah, exactly. And it doesn't have to be someone who's focused only in classical music. We all go through this battle with our inner self. Am I good enough? Can I make it? Can I sustain this life? Or, I guess it doesn't matter if you're, in classical or pop or jazz or whatever. There's all this stuff. People are people, I guess.
Yeah. Yep, for sure. Speaking of other genres and other arts, this is a beautiful segue into my last portion of the show, and it's called Picks. And this is a time where you get to share any pick with the listener that you would like. So it could be your favorite pop tune, like you mentioned, or your favorite serial, book. It can be anything under the sun.
This is what I've been wrestling with. I don't have a good answer for this. So I was sort of thinking, okay, what nerdily things would I pick? The things in my bag at all times. Well, right now I don't even put things in a bag, but my piccolo picks are Patricia Morris's study book with the etudes in it, and Mazzanti's book, and Telemon Fantasies. Those are always in my bag. My sort of nerdy self-help performance book pick, which is in the hands of a student, so I can't even like read you a quote from it, is A Soprano on Her Head by Eloise, and I don't know how to say her last name. R-I-S-T-A-D?
Yes, I think Ristad.
Ristad, maybe, yeah. And then I was like trying to rack my brain of like personal picks. I don't know. How do you know?
Oh, I've learned through these 150 episodes, which your episode is a good number, 150?
Yay! I feel like I should play the lottery today.
Yeah. But what I've learned through these 150 episodes is you have to get really creative with this pick portion of the show. It could be something as silly. I'm not kidding you. I have literally gone as far as saying, my pick for today are putting dates and figs into my morning oatmeal. like we're across. I mean, this is starting to get kind of ridiculous, but it could be literally anything. One time I did a pick of, I have 3 fur babies and 3 kitties that I love very much, and their catnip, like the dried leaves, is basically a mess, but they love catnip, right? So I found an alternative, and it's catnip spray. So it's super.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know. See? So that was a pick for one episode, was catnip spray. It literally is anything.
Oh my gosh. Well, I guess a very silly but practical pick for Chicagoans is, let me see if I can. It's Smith's Rosebud Salve.
Okay.
You can find it in Sephora. It's in a little tin jar. If you live in Chicago, you know that your hands, you go outside and they just crack and bleed for no reason because it's so cold here.
Yeah.
Or now we don't have this problem because we're wearing masks, but your nose starts to flake off because you're in Chicago and you went outside. It's like kind of Vaseline kind of consistency, but it's so much better. And a friend of mine gave it to me years ago because my knuckles, like I don't want to put lotion on my hands when I am going to go play the flute.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm, walk outside and crack. Like I look down at my hands in rehearsal and they're bleeding,
Oh no.
It's Chicago.
Yeah. It's cold.
So I guess that's my really stupid pick for living in the North.
No, that is not a silly pick at all. If literally, I will wrap this up real quick with a couple of my picks. Of course, you heard at the beginning of this talk, it's going to be an ad read. Some flute discounts are going on right now for listeners. So if you need some sheet music, or if you're curious about The Survival of the Flutist book by Marion Gadigian, here we go, full circle. Here's Marion.
Yep.
Flute Specialist and Flutistry Boston is giving out some discounts right now from now until March 1st and March 31st. So I will put all the information in the show notes, and links will be provided. So if anyone wants to take advantage of that, feel free to do so. And a shout out to my friend Cobus. I don't know if you know Dr. Cobus Dutois, but he has a Massachusetts Flute Festival going on next weekend, March 6th and 7th. He's the host of the festival, and it appears to be a free event for everyone.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. You can't go wrong with free.
Yeah.
And then I made a new friend this past week. His name is Dylan Flynn. He's a guitarist. And tragically, when he was a teenager, he was in a car accident and suffered an injury. And because of this, he lost a lot of movement in his left hand. And of course, you need that to play bass guitar. So he started this nonprofit organization called Pass the Bass. And so basically he passes the bass to professional bassists who will play his instrument and then donate to a brain injury fund, or people who have suffered from brain injuries in some capacity. And he's raised over $16,000.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah. So basically the money goes to the Brain Injury Association of America and the Brain Injury Alliance of Colorado. So if anyone's listening to this and you want to donate to a cause that you believe in, this is something that you can consider. And I will provide a link, and they have some amazing t-shirts that look so cool. So I'm going to definitely purchase a couple for my husband and I, since my husband is a guitarist. That's my third pick. And my fourth pick, talking about silly picks, is crackers spread with goat cheese and honey.
Oh!
It is scrumptious. You can thank me later. It is like, if you're not vegan, of course, literally, it's like the best thing ever. It's a great mixture of like the saltiness from the goat cheese plus the sweet honey. It's a great little dessert if you're not wanting something super heavy like cake. Or I've served it sometimes as an appetizer, before salad and soup.
I'm going to think of more picks and then just write you. Here are like better picks than Rosebud Salve.
No, your pick was amazing. Don't second guess your pick. Oh, shoot. Oh my gosh, Jenn, thank you so much for your time.
This was so fun.
Yeah,
thank you.
You've been a blast, and I love your energy and your spirit, and I could not have asked for anything better.
Well, thank you. This whole year has just been fun to connect with people that, normally we wouldn't have time to do. And this is a real honor to be on your podcast. I'm really enjoying listening to it. And I hope mine won't be too silly, but this was really fun.
Oh, good. And seriously, the sillier, the better. No, I just love how candid you are and how honest you are. And everyone's going to soak this up to the umpteenth degree. And you're just so kind to offer your time to us.
Oh, well, thank you.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Johnson at Flute Specialists. Flute Specialists is excited to sponsor Dr. Begay and Flute 360 podcast Piccolo series. We sure do love piccoloists, flutists, and low flute players. Flute Specialists has one of the largest inventories of new handmade flutes, pre-professional intermediate level instruments, head joints, piccolos, and low flutes. We also have a large inventory of previously owned flutes, piccolos, low flutes, and head joints as well. As a nationally known sales, repair, music, and accessory company, we have competitive pricing, excellent warranties for purchases and repairs. We also include for free, at no extra charge, instrument warranty for adjustments and lifetime discounts on all future repairs. We have a great teacher program assisting teachers, players, and families find the right instrument. We also have a number of virtual lectures and master classes for studios and private lesson instructors. Our Flute Specialist team looks forward to hearing from you and assisting you any way possible. We can send you flutes, piccolos, head joints for in-home trials as well. Do visit our flutespecialist.com website and our Flute Specialist Instagram and Facebook pages to keep up to date with all the fun contests and giveaways. We do look forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to the Flute 360 podcast. Please subscribe to the Flute 360 newsletter by going to HeidiKBegay.com. A pop-up will appear and you can enter in your information for the weekly newsletter. The newsletter includes great incentives, updates, and perks to the subscribers. Go ahead to HeidiKBegay.com and sign up today. Thank you.
Let's talk about flute.